It looks like we have everyone here, so we will go ahead and get started. I will call to order today's special events team meeting. We have one agenda item today, so we'll be spending our time on. It's an after action report. So thanks to everyone for completing those. We are going to continue to get more and more deliberate about our after action reviews with event organizers. We got a lot of moving parts, a lot of agencies and organizations in a changing community. So just want to encourage everyone to make sure, like when Kelly emails us and says, hey, we need to get that done, we need the information in, it's just as important on the back end to have those after action reports as it is on the front end to have the approvals for the events as part of our process. So thanks to everyone for doing that and taking it really seriously. Let's go around the room just quickly so everybody knows who is in the room. I don't think we have anyone on Zoom today, but if we do, Jamie will call on them after we're done with the room. I'm Maria Wague with the Office of Community Engagement in the Mayor's Office at the City of Boise. And Conrad, why don't we start with you and go around?
Conrad McDaniel, Republic Services.
Ed Graves, Public Works.
Debbie White, ACHD.
John Wasson, ACHD.
Summer Altieri, Boise Parks and Rec.
Andre Womack, Downtown Boise Association.
Jesse Tapper, Boise Fire. Joe Deathman, Boise Fire.
Lieutenant Jeff Nia, Boise Police.
Rachel Holford, Emergency Management.
Want us to go? Mike Owens, Town Square Media.
Lori Spencer, Lighter Than Air America.
Andy Clements, Town Square Media.
Brittany Graham, Town Square Media.
Great, thank you. And we have Jamie and Kelly from our clerk's office. All right, well, let's jump into it. I know, thank you so much for being here today with us. It's a really fun community event, and I know we're all interested in having it continue and get better and safer for the public every single year. So appreciate that very, very much. I want to start, I know we sent a quick memo just outlining some of what we got back from agencies in terms of after action. I just want to highlight, I think, a couple of different pieces that we thought went particularly well this year. One, the Boise Fire Department on-site medical team was able to provide really kind of quick assessment to medical calls within the footprint. I think they'll have a little bit more conversation about that. More vendors were added really successfully, enjoyed the event. I know that that's probably something with all of our events that's going to be increasing as participation increases. We'll probably need to see more vendors at all of our different events. On-site dumpster was added and very necessary. So maybe planning in the future, taking that into consideration. And then our dedicated Boise police officers were able to manage the crowd needs. So I know the community was really excited to have the event this year. It's I think along with some of our other key events in the city, one of the things that folks look forward to the most. So I very much appreciate that. We also are going to start because we know that there has been changes in the way that particularly our public safety organizations are interacting with these events and making sure that we are keeping them as safe and secure as possible, while at the same time maintaining levels of service that are necessary throughout the community that are not event related. Everyone has probably seen in the press recently that Boise is no different than the rest of our community in terms of having a difficult time hiring for positions. The community is getting more complicated. That puts a lot more pressure on our police department, our fire department, our emergency services generally. So just as we continue to have conversations about these events, that's going to be something that is top of mind for all of us, is that we need to make sure and be working with our emergency services to make sure that we are not only providing a footprint within events that is really safe and the necessary security there, but that we're taking into account that they've still got their kind of day mission that they've got to take care of with the community, because it's just as important for community members to know that if they call 911, they're going to get a response, as it is to make sure that we've got appropriate staffing levels at events. So just that's going to be something I think collectively that we're ongoing having conversations about within this event committee. We also really wanted to make sure that we're clearly lining out for events the cost, the actual cost of services on the day of the event. So what you'll see in the memo is what the actual cost of services were for some of our different city agencies: Boise Fire, Boise Police, Parks and Rec, and Republic Services. What was billed to the event and what the city of Boise covered. So, and that is really includes just the day of the event. So what we're not including in terms of the city's actual cost is any of the ahead of time, staffing time, any of the kind of back and forth, any of those kinds of pieces. But you will see, like for the day of the event this time, the city covered 65% of the actual cost of the event. So I think, Steve, you and I had a really great conversation earlier this year. We were able to do that again this year, but I think going forward with many of our events, particularly those that are not put on by our nonprofit partners, we're going to be looking to see events plan ahead for the ability to cover more of the cost, actual cost of the services provided by the city. So just kind of a heads up about where we're going in that department and to give everybody a sense of what that looks like. So with that, I think we will just go around the room a little bit. Probably not everybody is going to weigh in on every one of the recommendations. I've got a couple folks to call on from the very beginning. I think first recommendation was to ensure approved road and park closure plans are followed. So Rachel, I think you're going to lead this up, and then probably John and Lieutenant Nia are also going to weigh in on this particular recommendation.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning, team. So we really just want to make sure that as we go through our planning processes, especially when it comes to the traffic control plan and how the entrances and exits are going to flow for that park, we want to make sure that when we agree to something, we can stick with it. Right. So that really does assist us to make sure that the park is safe for all of your attendees and the balloonists, but also the surrounding public that is going to be using those roadways. So we just want to really make sure that as we agree on those, because we're looking at your emergency ingress egress routes, all of that stuff is pre-planned. So we're all on the same page. And if something changes, it kind of turns into a domino effect. And then we need to re-communicate that with our resources that are working that day. And sometimes we're not able to get all that information to everybody that needs it. So it can start to become a domino effect that we feel throughout the entirety of the event.
From ACHD's point of view, this event takes place entirely in the park, but we did receive a late request from the city to restrict access from the west end of the park, and we did implement it. That caused a little bit of jump through your keister, but we were able to accommodate it. I think that if we want to do that again next year, we ought to plan early for that and make sure it's implemented properly, because there were some issues. I had to come in and work with the traffic control company to get everything set up and squared away on that Saturday morning. And then I'll let Boise Police talk about one of their concerns.
Yeah, so the first thing regarding the closure plan, there's one comment that we got from those working down there. Apparently, the traffic was not set up at the end of the event prior to people trying to leave the park, which caused some confusion as well. So the sergeant noted that it'd probably be best to have that traffic pattern set up at least 5 minutes, if not sooner, from the end of the event, so that when people are starting to leave, because there was a pretty good rush, people leaving at the end there, to reduce the confusion on how people were getting in and out of the event at that point in time. And we'll hit on some more stuff here as we move on through the recommendations. But for this bullet point, that was kind of the note, was to set that up earlier than it was.
Does anyone else have anything on the first recommendation or any questions from the event organizers?
No, I think I hear what everyone's saying. I think we planned that out. So it sounds like I think we had two different meetings where we thought that the Ann Morrison entrance was going to be different than what it was. And I think we got that fixed. I think that's what he was referring to. So, I think overall the event went well. I think, some of these requests are real easy. It's small things we can do now that we've kind of seen what it looks like. Mass Security, they did a good job for kind of punting because they had like 4 people call in sick or no show. So I think everybody's having that issue a little bit. So we can maybe hopefully not have that happen next year and maybe have a few more people from them maybe manage that. And we can, but I think we've seen I think this was done right, but I think obviously there's some tweaks we have to make. So I think we're open to, to all of the, I guess, suggestions, and, it's easier to know now, it's just small little tweaks that we have to make, for next year.
All right, well, let's move on to 2. I think you previewed it for us, but I want to make sure that we're like fully on the record and that all of our agencies are fully on the record, which is a big part of why we do these within the meeting, which is really to confirm that the agreed upon security staffing numbers are deployed and to have a plan in place in the event that the security company that you're working with does have those no-shows or folks calling in sick. And I think particularly during these crazy pandemic times when we have a lot more people calling in sick abruptly, we're finding ways to mitigate for that is going to be important because it does put additional pressure on our emergency services throughout the valley that impacts our community as a whole. So Rachel, I'll let you take it.
Thank you. So that's another one where, we really do try to sit down and make sure that we have all of those assignments accounted for. And we do understand COVID. It did cause a lot of issues for you guys. It did for many events where people were calling in sick. Our goal is to have contingency plans in place for those situations. And I think when we find that there is something going on, we ask that you immediately communicate with those resources that are down there of those gaps. And I know you were working with the lieutenant, which is awesome. Greatly appreciate that. But we need to be able to know immediately if there's going to be issues. And I think there may have been some information provided earlier in the day before the Night Glow kickoff that they were short on staff. So it would have been a great opportunity for us to kind of rally together to figure out some solutions rather than finding out that we were missing some key positions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I think we had connected Mav with the lieutenant, but I think we just figure out who that contact person is. I think that they communicated, and so they did that. So it just, as we all know with events, like you get in the middle of it, it's kind of like, all right, what do we do and have the best outcome at the end? So we can maybe just talk about that communication, line. So maybe it's one person or, whatever that looks like. Even our promotion person got sick, and so Andy stepped in and was running around everywhere. But overall, I think that's an easy, fix.
Sean, anything on this item?
Nothing right now.
Lieutenant Nia.
Yeah, no, I think Rachel kind of hit on it. It just, we need to have those contingency plans in place. And really, if we're hiring those security companies, I'd like to see them be the ones that have the contingency plan in place if they do have sick call out, just like we would have to do it if we had a sick call out on our end. So that just reduces the stress on us and you as the organizers on the day of to put that back on them to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I think you already spoke to this one, so maybe we can move on to the third unless you've got additional on the security. Okay. The third recommendation comes from our Parks Department. It has to do with notification to vendors and ensuring compliance during the actual event. So I'll let Summer speak to that.
For sure. Good morning. I know I say this every year. I love the event. I think we threw a lot of changes for you guys this year to improve it, and it worked out well. So 2 parts of it is the morning lunches. I feel like they went great. Closing that long stretch off of Americana still let us let patrons into the park in the mornings and they could go to the dog park, or families could come in, and then we closed that long stretch so we didn't have the parking issues. So as far as the morning launches went and the balloons, was wonderful. Your guys did a great job, Lori, coming in and then chasing the balloons going out the Ann Morrison Drive. So I appreciate that a ton. And so does our staff. You guys did a great job on that. Night Glow is where we did the most requests for changes. And I think that we executed quite a few of them as the team, and you guys as well. But the thing that we need to work on is Friday. The point of us working and doing that closure for the entire park is so that we would limit vehicles in the park, not give VIP. And I think maybe that was confusion. But we can talk about that more next year, and have the event and do it again and have it full staffed. And like you said, being able to see it in person will be easier for you guys to plan it, because we've seen it in other events, but now you guys have been down there and see what happens if, the gap in security Friday afternoon after the morning launch, having a gap with Mav's team, let all of these other vehicles in. And I know that's not on you guys, Andy, especially. I know you were running around all day doing all sorts of stuff. So thank you. But really what happens is, getting security, if they had people that had COVID and they didn't come down, that's okay. But we still needed that park closed all day long because we had a bunch of cars in there. We can't get out, and we can't have an event for young kids if we have, worries on the safety level. And so I know that that's your guys' intention, is having the kids be totally safe the whole time above money. So that's what we need to do. So next year, I think we run the same, we run the same plan. We do not let VIP into the Night Glow. What we want to see at the park side is for Night Glow to have no moving vehicles in the park while it's dark. And so that means if your vendors come in, they can come in, they set up, they wait until the mass people leave normally, or we could ask for BPD to let us know when it's good, and then the vendors can go. And so I think that that's just something we get out ahead of now, because adding vendors, you guys added how many, Mike?
Oh, I think it's 8.
Yeah. Did they do well? I think they.
Everybody did well,
Yeah.
after we kind of agree on this, and
Mhm.
I think this was probably more me. I had a misunderstanding, and Rich and I
That's okay.
argued for about 20 minutes, but I better lunch. I told her I'd drink at lunch, but anyway,
That's okay.
yeah. But I think, that's an easy fix. We can make that work. I've got
Totally.
one sponsor. He's a pain in the ass, but
Mhm.
if I tell him way in advance,
Tell him way in advance.
he'll be good. He'll be good with that.
Yeah. And you know
Yeah.
what? And here's the thing. Yeah. If he doesn't like it, then I'm happy. Our sponsorship covers your overnight vehicles. And so if that's one of the things, like if you need another overnight pass in order for us to keep the community that much safer, we'll totally do that. for
Yeah,
you.
I don't
And-
think it's that. I think it's just so he can park right behind the tents and walk up to the tent. But
Yeah,
we'll get that figured out. I don't think that's a huge issue. I just got to tell him way in advance and let us
Mhm.
sink in, and we'll come up with a plan
That's
there.
right. I can call him. We could tell him.
Yeah.
You can't come. So.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's the big thing. We need to have security, and, planning budget wise ahead of time is on Friday. I want to see the park close. If you're not a vendor and you are planning on moving your car at some point, then you can't come in on Friday, and the VIP, you guys can do the we could still find VIP parking, but it just can't be in the heart of your festival,
Yeah.
because, you should see some of the videos that we do have are just, Rachel will speak more about it, but just people commingling with that is
Yeah.
not something we want.
I think that's an easy solution.
Totally.
And just I think we figure out, and I might even take a video of it and send it to the vendors so they can see where it's at.
Yep,
And then
yep.
there's no question, because I get 100 phone calls, and
Yes.
no matter how many times I say it, they still can't hear it sometimes, but I think there's ways to
Yeah.
communicate
And
that.
that's, I'm just gonna use Art in the Park as an example. We have a pre-vendor meeting, and they invite some of our departments, to get the things that the vendors don't love to hear, but that we're asking you, we're really putting the pressure on you to do that. We come to that meeting and we get them all in one room, and then we're those people saying, it's not Mike being the bad guy, it's us pushing him to do that. So
I
we'd
think
have
we're
you
I think we're
make
okay with to
Okay.
let them know. I
Okay.
don't even know. And part of some of the food vendors, they're a different type of vendor, so
Totally.
they won't show up anyway.
Yeah.
So
No, that's okay.
yeah.
Well, I think that's fine. The other part is that was good. Security, I do want to know exactly when and where they're going to be on those days next year, so that we can work on that. thank you for telling us to put the dumpster on the other side. We did have, our staff had issues with trash. We had issues with a number of trash boxes and just things like that. So we'll work on that on our end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I know
that's
that
an easy one.
was, but other than that, I think it's just really getting to number 3 is, making sure the vendors don't leave beforehand. We're not going to let VIP event members into the Night Glow footprint in their cars. And we're just, execute the plan. So
Yeah.
I think it was great. If you guys,
Yeah, you only have 3 really suggestions. I think, it could have been 20,
Yeah,
so
well-
I think these are easy tweaks.
let's do the important ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I kind of want to tell you guys, I just like to be transparent, like our financials and things like that. So it's okay. I can just kind of roll into that and then maybe a couple suggestions and
I think actually if we could save that until I think we've got like just 3 more
Sure.
department recommendations, and then we'd
Yeah.
love to have a conversation about that.
Okay.
And really appreciate, I think the next one has to do with like the in-park parking as well. And fully recognizing that as a community, I think we're all like struggling with some of the changes. Like those of us who have lived here for quite a while are like, wait a minute, I have to make reservations at downtown restaurants now. Like I can't just like park a block away from where I'm going to hang out. So we're like seeing this, I think, throughout the community and at events as well. And I think we all understand that it's going to be change management over the next few years as folks get used to living in the community that is growing. But I will let Rachel take number 4, which has to do with the VIP and the ADA access parking.
Thank you. So as you said, we had a very candid conversation during the event, and we discussed why it was,
Yeah.
a concern to see, families, children, which the whole event is surrounding having a great time with families and children. And it's absolutely wonderful. We just want to make sure that we're not mixing vehicles with families and pedestrians as best as possible. So we just need to make sure that we solidify that plan and we do our absolute best to keep them separated at all times. So we've already, discussed it, what our expectations are. So next year we'll just get it worked out.
yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Great. I think the next recommendation has to do with Crescent Rim, Lieutenant Nia.
So getting feedback from the motors regarding Crescent Rim. In the plan, it looked like we were going to let it stay open for a while until it got to a point to close it down. I think the recommendation moving forward is that we just need to either close it down completely early on so that no one can get up there, or another option would be to sign it no parking and put those signs up there, and then the officers would monitor the no parking. The issue arising is that the residents up there are being impacted, even with the number of cars that went up there early. They get on both sides of the street, and then that also restricts the flow for emergency vehicles to get in and out of that area as well. So really, those are the 2 options that we're looking at. I think, talking to John as well, both those options are going to be on you as an organizer to have your providers do that, either to set up the no parking signs or, then again, demand the closure. So whichever one, that's going to be put on them to do that piece, but we do want Crescent Rim closed.
I think we just make it no parking. It's easier, and then we don't have to deliver letters. We put it on the website, we run it on our promos, and I think just way in advance, it's not, might be a little bit more staff, but I think it's easier. It's just, we don't want to upset anybody up there. I know Andy hand delivered every letter, and most of them are happy to be up there, but then when the cars get there, it's hard to deal with that. Or vendors that can't find or patrons that can't find a parking spot up there, then they complain too. So
right.
I think it's
so
easier
if that's going to be your plan, just be aware you'll need to work with ACHD to do that, and then have your vendor put up the signs and make sure those get returned. So
okay, sounds good.
And then I think just the final recommendation, and something that we are likely to add into the special events packet and questions that we ask of all applicants ahead of time, is really just to see the promotional materials ahead of time, to make sure that they fully match with the information that we've agreed upon collectively in the meetings. So your event is a little bit different because there's a lot of radio promotion that goes along with that. So we would like to see the copy and then hear the actual ad before it goes on the air, to make sure that it is articulating all of the things that we've agreed upon. Most of our events, we go in during the lead up weeks to the event and check the social media advertising, check the website, just make sure that we're involved with all of that. And like, just know, like, we're having this conversation with all of our different event organizers. We make calls pretty regularly that says, hey, your website's a little bit unclear. We saw that social media post. Could you do a little bit better job articulating
Yeah.
any number of different things? So
Yeah, we can do that. We move pretty quick. It's nice. We produce all in-house, so it's real easy to change it real quick or,
yeah,
send it out in
that would
advance.
be great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
so that I think does the department recommendations. Is there anyone else that has any comments or any feedback for Mike and the team before?
I do. Jesse with Boise Fire. Yeah, just a couple of things. Everything went over pretty well from a fire prevention standpoint. I did talk to the fire inspector who kind of looked over the whole area. Minor things, you guys made adjustments as soon as he brought them up. He talked about one of your larger occupant loaded tents being kind of close to a fence or a wall. And so next time we just want to make sure that those tents are, because they have two exits when you have a lot of occupants in there, and they got to be fully open as wide as the exit is. So just move it back from whatever. I'm not sure what tent it was.
Yeah, if we can just find out, we can.
Yeah, just
the
slide it out a
largest
little
tent
bit.
We have is Lori, so if we just tell her in advance, because
Yeah.
those trees have grown out too, so we had to move it to the side and everything may go to
Right.
the right. So now we know where it is.
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
go.
no big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, everything looked great. You adhered to the agreed upon isolation zones for the propane fill station. So I think that went pretty well. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that. That was probably our biggest concern, all that propane sitting there. But other than that, no, it was a good event.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, morning, Ed Graves with Public Works. I just wanted to make sure, was there enough dumpster capacity, recycling and trash?
There was enough dumpsters. We were short on trash
Yeah,
receptacles. So-
okay. I know there was like a supply chain issue with
Well, yeah.
that, but I just wanted to make sure that there was enough dumpster space for this event. So
Yeah.
everything went, okay.
No, we were good. Having the two extras and then the recycling was good. And just so, because we're on the record, it was Republic let us know in advance that it was a supply chain issue. And so we planned the best that we could, but we just worked with, what we had. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Maria, sorry, real quick, I was just going to say for the record that city risk management is on Zoom. They did not need anything. And then also Leslie Pedroza with Valley Regional Transit is on. So I just wanted to mention that and then see if she needed anything while we're on roundtable.
I am good. We did not have any issues with buses this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I thank you so much for letting us get through that kind of like
Yeah.
round robin first.
Great. I just I every year, sometimes I think about the financials and I'm going, okay, it's a lot of resources. We all take a lot of resources to do it, but I just think, overall, I think people love the balloons. It makes everyone happy. And this year we were able to save money over here and add a couple of sponsors. Even Todd, our main sponsor, threw an extra $5,000 just to help us. We made $1,500 is what I on the books, which for all that work, it's hard to oh man, but exposure with the radio stations, all that kind of stuff really helps us out. So next year, I think we got a couple of bigger sponsors maybe able to throw in to help maybe offset some expenses. Even with this, the sponsors from the city, we can meet halfway, so it's not all of a sudden an extra $4,000. It always helps. I got a question because it's a lot of setup I would like to. We flew all 5 days. And normally that doesn't happen. So you always save and propane this year. In 2019, it was 63 cents a gallon. This year it was $1.89, and that was with a deal. So that's kind of what happens. So if you only go 4 days, you save $1,000 or whatever it is. So obviously we want to fly every day, but it just never happens. This year we just got lucky. I think everything was shining correctly for us. So I'm trying to figure out ways to make more money just to justify, if we make $5,000 or $6,000, I'm okay with that. It doesn't get anybody rich, but it just kind of justifies it for my corporate. They told me if I lose $1, just plan on not doing it. Well, I didn't lose $1, so that's good. With the vendors, you can only add so many with the space and things like that. So we're going to try to add $50 or $75 per vendor. That adds an extra $2,000 or $3,000. My question was, and I think I sent it to Kelly and maybe in summer you were on there, but we've already got all these food vendors set up and we've got these little merch vendors. is there a way where we can leave them for overnight for like, so we do it on Friday, can Saturday, Sunday, can they just be set up in the morning to sell some merch? Because you get all these people there. And if I can throw an extra $50 or $100 on them for the booth space, that it just throws an extra 2 or 3 or 4 grand. So I'm just throwing it out there. Just it's easier when they're already set up and you can just, everybody gets a little bit of increase. What do you think about that?
I love it. I think we can totally do that. You know, it's a vendor per day that they're there. So we can find their spots, you know, along where that river float was really nice. If that's what you're thinking, or if you're thinking on the grass.
They're already just set there. So
Yeah.
we won't do it on Wednesday or Thursday, but they're setting up for Friday. We might as well keep them there Saturday, Sunday, and maybe not everybody wants to do it, but you know,
I think that's great. And I think it's good budgeting for you guys to look at those options, and we can do that for you guys. And if doing that makes you guys money to accommodate the things that we're asking for security and closures and things like that, then let's work together and do it.
Okay,
Like, I think that that's something we can do. And, you know, if you get to charge them a flat fee each day that they're there, that's helpful for you guys. And then
I'm just saying they're already set up. So
Yeah.
if we can keep most of the food vendors there, it's less people that are trying to leave.
Mhm.
And then Sunday, everybody's gone. Then they can leave. It just maybe it alleviates a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It throws an extra 3 to 5 grand at us, and then we don't have to even
Yeah.
worry about it.
Well, if
So-
that helps out on that all day Friday closure that I want,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that will be,
I think it
yes.
just helps. They're in there, they're already done. And then Saturday, Sunday, the crowds are already there. Like, why not? You
I think
know?
it's smart.
So-
I think people will like it. I would think that you're going to need to have your porta potties serviced extra.
Yeah.
And then we'll need to talk about getting trash out early. I think that there's that component, you know, just for our labor trash hours, maybe you guys use your
but
people
I
on
just
those
don't, I
things.
think the revenue here and the expense
Mhm.
just goes up a little bit. You know, the porta potties even like,
Yeah,
I paid double that I did in 2019.
we
It's-
all,
The only
yeah.
place I saved money was MAP security because there are people who didn't show up or they needed to, but it doesn't help us. But it just,
Yeah.
again, just to be transparent, it's like, oh, okay, the bill's a little less this year because, you know, they had 4 or 5 people, but we can increase that. I think they'll have they're going to have to, you know, I think that's an easy solution, but if we can do that, I just, you know, hopefully I can get a bigger sponsor, but you know, an extra $50 or $100 per vendor,
Mhm.
it just adds up quick.
Okay.
And then we're not worrying about, you know, trying to nickel and dime everything. It just helps.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we look at that. We look at how many you want to do that, because we still want to leave space in the park for people that are going to use it throughout the week, because you guys just have the morning lunches.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that's a great idea.
Well, and we're done by 9 or 10 a.m. anyway. Like on Saturday, I'm going, boy, they can just shop these places that, you know, everybody gets out of there, they look around and they make a few extra bucks and they're already set up. So we don't have to do the in and out thing all the time. Okay. All right. I think that's what will be the plan. We'll put it at that in for next year. And then I'm able to kind of figure out what that budget looks like. And if, you know, we have to spend a little bit more on security and, you know, not as much on the sponsorship side from the city, you know, it'll be easier to kind of plan that out. And I can put that in the packages right now.
My one thought, well, we can talk about it
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Okay, overall, I think, you know, again, it was nice to be able to fly and you know, I think we've kind of streamlined what we need to do. We'll tweak a few things. There's always a few surprises we have, but I think overall, I think that the system is kind of there now. So the infrastructure is there. We'll just tweak a couple things and we'll be good. Lori, you have anything to add?
Depends on, we always have night glow on the opposite night of Boise State's home football game opener. If it's an away game, it's not so much of a big deal. If the home game is on Friday, then that's something that we need to look at, because that would pop our night glow to Saturday if we don't want to double up.
The game's on Saturday next year. I already looked.
Is it, you already looked? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, there we go.
Done.
So we can keep it on Friday again. That's what
Very
it looks like. But I know sometimes they change, but it's always easier if it's on a Thursday, then we don't have to worry about anything. But yeah. Okay, great. You guys have anything to add? Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks for coming in today and doing this in person for you guys and for everyone. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next year.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Great. Thanks. All right, just a couple of reminders on the agenda. First, the potato drop is coming up very, very quickly. So if folks could get into the system and work through any approvals that need to be worked through. I think we have a safety and security meeting this week, so we may just be waiting on that. But before y'all leave to be merry and jolly, make sure we get that done. And then the other piece before merrymaking begins is just the Turkey Day 5K after action, which is due at the end of this month. And again, I think as we kind of are coming to the lull in this season and getting ready for the uptick for next season, getting really dialed in on our after action reports. We're going to be developing these memos and providing them to event organizers, and probably more often having folks come in and doing specific after action reports, but particularly with our bigger events like this, where I think it makes a ton of sense to do so. So appreciate you all doing that. And then I think this is our last meeting for the year.
Yeah, I don't have any organizers on the agenda for Wednesday, December 22nd. So that meeting will most likely be canceled. I would say the only thing that may happen around that time is if we need to have a huddle with stakeholders for the potato drop. If there's any open-ended business that needs to be taken care of that week, we'll do that. But other than that, yeah, we'll probably be good for till January.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. So the only other thing I have is I just want to thank all of you so much for making my first special events season so smooth and easy and fun. And I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I'm totally inspired by how much everyone cares about creating really good, safe, fun events that make our community what it is. So thank you all so much, and have some really happy holidays. Let's get through the potato drop and start it all again next year.